Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music's free, virtual, and as we were just saying, very informal monthly series called Conversations with Our Curator. I am Melissa Ziobro, the curator and a history professor here at Monmouth University in West Long Branch, New Jersey. Tonight, we are chatting with Laurel Snyder about her book, Bruce Springsteen, A Little Golden Book Biography. I'm so excited to be chatting with Laurel about how one goes about writing a book in this beloved children's series and how on earth one distills a 50-plus year career into this very brief and accessible format. But before we dive in with Laurel, just a few housekeeping details. As always, apologies to our regulars who hear this month after month, but we've always got new folks on the Zooms. So if you are not familiar with the Bruce Springsteen Archives and Center for American Music, as I said, we're located at Monmouth University in central New Jersey, just a mile from the beautiful Jersey Shore. Our mission is twofold. We are Bruce Springsteen's official repository, so we preserve his legacy, but we also celebrate the history of American music in all its diversity of artists and genres with our exhibits, our programming, our publications, and more. So as a longtime history educator, it's very exciting to me because believe it or not, there are people who think history is boring. I know that's very alarming, but there are people who think history is boring. And if you can just sell it to them in the right way, if you can grab their attention, then they're like, oh, hey, one, this is interesting. And two, this is relevant to my life. Right. And so music is a great way to get people engaging with the past. So if you are, again, not familiar, we at the archives are in the process of building a brand new 30,000 square foot facility scheduled to open on the campus of Monmouth University around the spring of 2026. So this time next year, we should be open. The new facility will feature a small gift shop, a roughly 250-seat theater, some 9,000 square feet of exhibits, the archive for research, and so much more. So you can see more about our work on our social media or on our website, which is springsteenarchives.org. You can also donate on our website if you are so inclined. I always have to give that pitch, right? Because we are a 501c3 and we are always actively fundraising. I will put our link tree in the chat so that you can connect with us across the social media platform of your choosing or bookmark our website. All right, so thank you for letting me introduce or reintroduce us to you a bit. And we'll get back to tonight's program specifically. So Conversations with Our Curator has been going for like a year and a half now. It is a free monthly web series which features researchers and writers exploring new perspectives in American music history. So sometimes the books are about Bruce and sometimes they are about other people, places, and moments in American music history. I will ask some initial questions of tonight's author, Laurel, and then you will have the opportunity to ask questions if you would like. You can unmute yourself to ask questions, or you can type them in the chat. One last housekeeping detail before we dive in with Laurel. I want to acknowledge Eric Kent and thank him for his co-sponsorship and promotion of this program. Eric, did you want to say hi for a sec?
Sure. Hi. And Melissa, thank you so much for that. And it's nice to be with you again. Laurel, it's so nice to meet you and to connect with you both online often throughout this process. First and foremost, I'm a big Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band fan. In fact, little known fact is I went to the same high school as Mighty Max Weinberg. That's a story for another time. And just love the music and the history and the sentiment behind it. My wife and I publish njparenting.com for the past 7 years, and we proudly serve New Jersey and the tri-state area about what's going on in the state and what's going on for families. So we're very, very happy to be a part of this and sponsor this event tonight. So thank you very much for having us, and looking forward to learning much more.
Awesome. Thank you so much again, Eric.
Yeah.
All right. So let's get down to business here. We've got our book. We're training a new generation of Springsteen fans here. Let's just start with Laurel. I'm reading that you've been writing since you were a kid and you've written over 30 books. So just tell us a little bit about yourself to begin.
Yeah, well, I should say I've published 30 books. I do a lot of work with kids, like I do a lot of school visits and teach workshops and things like that. And it's always really important to me to say that I've written hundreds of books because most of the books don't get published, right? Like no matter how far you get in any career, you're always making messes too. So there's that part also. And so there's that. But yeah, I started writing when I was 8 and pretty seriously, like sort of it was a daily practice when I was a little girl, and then I took creative writing classes as a teen and in college, and went to grad school for that. And I thought I wanted to be an academic. I thought I wanted to be a poet, at a fancy university. And things went sideways, and the stories just started coming out as children's books. The things that I thought were going to be serious grown-up work kept coming out as picture books and children's novels and funny little silly poems and songs and things like that. And it took me a while to kind of figure out that this was what I was really meant to do. And so it's been about blending all the things I would have written about for adults, all the things that I love and care about and that my life is about, into books for children, and finding ways to do that. And I was telling Melissa earlier, the Little Golden Book is the Bruce Springsteen book, which more or less I did because I wanted to be attached to it. Like I love him and I wanted to be a part of that. But I also have a novel that came out many years ago that's sort of loosely based on my parents' divorce, with sort of a magical element in it, that's all wrapped around the song Hungry Heart. And that's sort of more typical of what I do, is sort of taking bigger themes and personal experiences and magical elements and the kinds of children's books that I love, and kind of wrapping them all together and trying to find a way to sort of make all the things that I care about something that a kid would want to read about. So that's what I do. So I've been doing this for a really long time, and I've been publishing for about 20 years. And like I said, I spend a lot of time also teaching and working with kids.
I'm jotting down so many notes already. So, you talk about writing since you were a kid. When my grandmother passed away, we found books that I wrote for her, and I would bind
Mhm.
them and type them up and everything. So that resonates so much with
I
me.
mean, I think that a lot of kids, I mean, this is why I like doing the workshops. I think a lot of kids are very naturally creative in that way, whether it's visual art or dance or music or creative writing. And I think somewhere along the way, we somehow, a lot of them lose, like it's not reinforced, or it's not acknowledged, or it gets harder, as you move along, and so they sort of drop it. But I feel like kids are naturally creative, and better at it than we are as a grown-ups. And a big part of my job is trying to remember how to think like a kid.
Mm. Well, what you just said, they're trying to think like a kid. I think kids don't read as
Mm.
much these days as perhaps we did when we were younger, or earlier generations did. So the idea that you can write good children's books, that you can write engaging children's books that are going to inspire kids to have a love of learning is so, so very important.
Yeah, it's something, I mean, it's something we're thinking a lot about. We know just statistically that the reading is dropping off, especially when they get to upper elementary and into middle school. And so that's something I think a lot of people are engaging with. I have a series that the first book came out 2 years ago, called Endlessly Ever After, that we're doing another 3 in the series. It's like a really large format picture book, but it's a choose your own adventure. It's not, no, that's proprietary. It's a pick your path story. But because it has that sort of interactive feel that a video game does, that they get to choose things and terrible things happen, and it's felt very dramatic, kind of trying to find new ways to keep kids engaged with reading. So
Keep them engaged. Yeah, that's so, so important. So you mentioned you love Bruce. Tell us a little bit about your relationship with Bruce. You consider yourself a fan, right?
yeah, I'm a huge fan.
Tell us the story.
Yeah, well, I'll go backwards. I'll say that the way that the Little Golden Book came about, is that I am also a huge fan of Little Golden Books. Like the Little Golden Book as an institution and as a part of American literacy and publishing is its own, like there are books about that too, right? Like it's its own thing. But what happened was they decided to, or they had been doing this biography series, and I saw that a friend of mine had done the Dolly Parton book. And I went, oh my gosh, if you can do a Dolly Parton book, then somebody's going to get to do a Bruce Springsteen book. And if somebody's going to get to do a Bruce Springsteen book, it better be me. And so I called my agent and I said, can you please pitch me for this? And she said, that's like a work for hire gig. That's an IP gig. That's not a lot of money. It's not like a traditional royalty as if you invented a book, right? And I said, I don't care. This one isn't about money. This is about me getting to be part of something, like some little part of me is connected to some little part of Bruce. And I want to see my name on a piece of paper with his name on it. That's all I really want here. So that was sort of where that came from. But my Bruce journey goes all the way back. I said that I started writing when I was 8. And I often say that I started writing because I was sad. That when I was 8, my parents split up, and I was lonely, and kind of, I think a lot of it was like, you don't always have a friend to play with, and you might be having a hard day, but like the page is always there. Your art supplies is there, your writing is there for you, and which is probably a big part of where I connect to Bruce, is that so much of his work came out of, struggles and experiences and the need to go to tell his story and all of that. But I don't think I was thinking about it that way when I was 8. I was just sad. But it overlaps with Bruce in that I was born in 1974. I've only reverse engineered this now as I was thinking about how to talk about it today. It's not like I thought about it this way then. But so I was 6 when The River came out. And my parents had a turntable in the living room. And the very nicest thing in my childhood was that sometimes in the evening after dinner, we would all dance in the living room, and I'd like stand on top of the coffee table, and my dad and mom would like hold my hands. My brothers and sisters who are younger than me would be kind of like, crawling around on the floor, or somebody would like pick my little sister up and be dancing with her. And I have these very, very sweet memories of that, and very specifically centering on The River. And there were other records. Of course, there were other. I remember we had the Willie Nelson, Pancho and Lefty, that record, and we had there was a Tina Turner record in the mix. Like there were because you didn't have a lot of records back then. You had like a collection of 50 records, right? And so I remember this song, Hungry Heart, as this just like incredibly important part of my childhood. And I actually also have these memories of, I would get out my parents' record albums and like build with them, like make little house, like boxes and houses, and like play with my paper dolls and things like that. So it's all wrapped up there. 2 years later, my parents got divorced, and somewhere the song Hungry Heart got all mixed up in my head with my dad. And it's not accidental that I'm from Baltimore, and my dad suddenly wasn't there, and somehow this like weird mythic thing happened where that all got mixed up together in my head. And then other things happened, right? Then years go by, and I turned into a teenager, and my friends were listening to other kinds of music, and in my head, Bruce Springsteen was part of being little. And I went off and started listening to the Grateful Dead, and then The Cure or whatever else. And then years later, turned got the greatest hits record, and that sort of brought everything back. And somewhere in the mix of all that, and we were talking before this conversation about my sister as a big part of my Bruce Springsteen story, that somewhere along the line, my sister, who's a lot younger than me, reconnected with Bruce. And she has a story that I don't want to tell because it's her story, but she has a story about like standing in a record and tape traders in Baltimore, listening to the little headset and sort of hearing Bruce Springsteen for the first time since she was little, and realizing that like this was going to be really important for her too. Anyway, so she actually began going to shows then when she was in I think she must have been like 14 or 15. She started going to shows on her own and dragging her friends and things like that in the years when I was not listening to Springsteen. And then somewhere along the line, as we were adults, like her love of Springsteen and my nostalgia and my memories and the greatest hits record kind of all swam together, so that by the time I turned like 20, it was in constant rotation in my house. But so it's this weird thing where I've had these two lives with Bruce. I have these childhood memories, and then I have my sort of adult life and my parenting, where of course my living room and my coffee table dancing then turned into Bruce Springsteen. So now I have two teenage boys who are, I think, unusual among their friends in their great love of Bruce Springsteen. So it does feel very like multi-generational in this house. And my husband teases me about it.
It is. It is so often multi-generational. My mom is on the Zoom right now. Hi, Mom. Love you. My mom shares a birthday with Bruce, although she will tell you she is many years younger than him. But so, growing up listening to my mom, I picture my mom prepping for parties and Bruce is on in the background. And now my teenagers, my oldest is a piano player. He can play you all of Bruce's catalog
Yep.
on the piano, right? So it's so fascinating how this artist can connect generations in a way that not many can. There's others, but
Yeah.
not many.
And there's a funny like sort of end to the story, end cap to the story is that so we're Jewish, and my older son's bar mitzvah, whatever year that was, I guess he's 19. So 6 years ago, I live in Atlanta now, and we had a bar mitzvah for him here, and we did it at a karaoke place. And my family, my mom and dad had not really like been in a room together in all those years. Like it was not a nice divorce back in the day. And Moses' bar mitzvah happened, and at some point, my friend has a video of this. We have this amazing video footage of my whole family for the very first time after all those years being in this like little compact karaoke room together, and everybody in the room is singing Hungry Heart.
Whoa.
And it's, I mean, to me it really was just this like, oh, like I don't want to say it's all Bruce, but like who's
Yeah,
to say that we would have had that moment again after all those years if it weren't
yeah.
for Springsteen.
Ugh. So you said that these little golden bios have a sort of formula to them, and there was a lot that had to be condensed in
Yeah.
ways you're not used to. Now, for anyone who hasn't looked at the little golden bio yet, Laurel did a tremendous job. Again, my
Oh.
literal job is Bruce Springsteen. So I am telling you, the way she condenses this story is a wonder. But how did you tackle it?
Yeah, well, I did a really bad job at first.
No.
I no, because I didn't pay attention. Like I got all excited. They said I could do the book, and I got all excited, and I sat down and I went and I reread his autobiography, and then I checked out some other books from the library, and I listened to some interviews, and like all of that. And then I sat down with my notebook and drafted something beautiful and lyrical, and that would capture the spirit of Springsteen, driving down the highway on a late at night kind of feeling. And sent it in, and the editor wrote back and said, "This is beautiful, and it has nothing to do with what we're going to publish." And so then I had to kind of go, oh, and realize that she had sent me a whole like zip load of files that I had not paid attention to. So there is like a format to it. And she had given me a bunch of the other books to look at to sort of get a sense of, that it needs to say this information by whatever point in the book, and certain information needs to be included. And I was doing a lot of repetition kind of stuff and trying to without like using too many of his lyrics so that it would have to be copyright stuff. um, Sort of wanting to kind of capture the vibe of the songs, and it just wasn't possible. So then I went back and started over again and thought, well, like what, like it literally is like a math problem. It's like this is how many words you have, and so like if you begin to list the names of all the bands he's ever played in, or all the towns, or like there were some challenges at the end where there was some moving around, and I needed sort of in his marriage to Patty and his move back to Jersey and his like awards and accolades, getting them in the right order without adding like a bunch of extra steps to the story. Like so that you can make it feel like it's all headed back to New Jersey, sort of, and we're all a happy family with lots of awards sitting on the porch kind of feeling. So there were some like structural challenges to it, but
Okay.
mostly it's his story is just lovely. And so it was just a matter of how, like I sort of wrote it and then I started erasing and deleting and just sort of trying to see like how much I could take away without the story falling apart.
Mm. So I have to ask, could there be another Bruce Springsteen children's book from you in the future based on that first draft?
I I I mean, yeah, it's totally like I said, like this book actually has Hungry Heart in it, and he did give me the permission to use the lyrics from Hungry Heart. Um, I mean, I would love to do something else. There is some weirdness to it of like somehow the Little Golden Book thing kind of felt like a seal of approval. Like it's not just mine, it's a Little Golden Book, and that's
Yeah.
its own thing. The idea of like trying to write about somebody else's life, especially he's got his own picture book, right? Like that sort of to not want to, I don't know, to overtell somebody's story when they should be telling their own, and they are telling their own story,
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of feels a little funny. I would love to. Bruce, if you're out there and you want to co-author a picture book, let's do it.
Maybe we can make sure he sees this. I don't know,
Yeah.
but we'll see. Um, did being a fan, do you think, make writing this book easier or more difficult?
Oh, much harder. Yeah, no, like if somebody said to me, do Chapel Roan, like Chapel Roan's great, but I'm not a mega fan for Chapel Roan. Like it would just be about like gathering information. The feeling of not being able to include all the steps, of not being able to name, like I would have liked to spend a couple pages on each member of the E Street Band. I would have loved to, gone deeper, like his children, or there's just not space, and it feels like there's so many layers to his life that just can't fit in a 500 word anything.
Is that what a golden book is? Roughly 500 words?
I don't remember exactly the
Okay,
word count, but it's definitely not more.
in that
I'm pretty
ballpark.
sure it's not more than that.
Gotcha. So I was going to ask, were there things that you really wish could have stayed in that ultimately got cut? You just mentioned the other members of the E Street
That was
Band.
maybe
Anything
the
else?
That was the hardest thing is like because I couldn't not include Clarence in a significant way, then it felt weird that I didn't include. It's like once that door opened, it felt like everybody should get a page. And that felt funny to me. Yeah. And I mean, if I'm honest, like I mean, anytime you're writing something this brief, everything you include then becomes important, right? So just knowing that, like, no matter what I did, it wouldn't be, if he were to do this, he would do it differently. And I don't know what the difference is, but I know that, like, if somebody were to write the story of my life, they wouldn't get it right. They just wouldn't.
Yeah.
And so there's just some sense, but that's always true with creative work. You're always failing. Like every time you try to do something, you're not going to do it quite as well as you want to. And that's the reason then you go back and do it again the next time. Like every book is an attempt at something I've never done before, so it's immediately a failure, and then that's the reason to go and make the next thing. um and that's the magic of it. It's why it doesn't get boring. It's why you can do it from, I mean, been doing it for 40 whatever years, like but yeah, and just the sense of like this isn't because it's Bruce and because he looms so large for me. Just this sense that like it's one thing to fail, a book about a magical kitten, and it's another thing to fail a book about like a hero. Feels just different.
Oh.
But
So we want to someday see that other Bruce Children's book, and now I want you to do a Little Golden Book biography of the whole E Street Band. Like instead of being called Bruce, can it be called the E Street Band?
we could totally see. It's not impossible. You
Let's
never
work on
know.
this. We'll get that offline.
Okay.
Um, in our email exchanges, you said you were worried about real fans taking issue with the book.
Yeah.
And, earlier we were chatting and I was like, oh my gosh, can I ever relate to that? Because everything I do, I'm like, oh my goodness, you can never make everybody happy because everybody feels that they know Bruce, that they love Bruce, right? So, talk to us about how you navigated fan reactions, if you've had any interesting fan reactions, any feedback you've had, positive or negative.
One thing I'll say, and this is maybe cheesy, and I'm sure that it's not entirely true, but one thing I will say is that all the interactions I've ever had with the sort of Springsteen universe are full of generous, interesting, wonderful people. Like that, and I have other fandoms that I'm part of where people get much pettier. And so on some level, that's the reassurance is like, you know what? Like, I can imagine somebody being like, who is this chick who thinks she can write the Little Golden Book about Bruce Springsteen? Like that question of like not knowing that I'm a fan, like I could see that feeling. But I also feel like I have seen enough of the buzz online that's just like, oh my gosh, like I'm gonna give this to my kid. Like that there is some sense of like passing down the tradition and like better that it be there than it not be there. And I mean, I encourage everyone to write their own Springsteen story, right? Like if that's always the challenge in the world is like if you think somebody didn't do it well enough, then try because it may not be as easy as you think. But mostly I've tried to avoid those spaces since the book came out because I don't really want to see people nitpick, like that.
Well, again, you did an amazing job, and I'm gifting it to every child I
Well,
know.
thank you. And I feel
Everybody
like
that has a baby
thank you.
gets their copy.
When you asked me to do this, just when I saw you in my inbox, I got so excited because I was like, oh, that means like it's okay. Like I did okay.
We love it. We love it. So let's talk a little bit about illustrations. I should mention it's Jeffrey Ebeler. Am I pronouncing that
I
right?
don't know if that's how I've been pronouncing it in my head, but I don't actually know him. I haven't met him, so I don't
Oh,
know.
okay. So that was my question. When you're working on a little golden book, do you get to pick your illustrator? Do you collaborate with them? Do you approve their illustrations? How does that
So
work?
with these books, there are several layers to the answer. With these books, with Little Golden Books, they use certain illustrators for like so the guy who did this one also did the Willie Nelson book, right? Like that there or the person they have like a few stock or not stock, but they have a few illustrators that they
Hmm.
use for the books. So I certainly didn't get to select in this case. I thought he did a great job. Um, there were a few places where I had to like submit like significant art notes. Like there was some confusion around the Springsteen houses, right? So there's these two childhood homes, one of which it's easy to find a picture of, one of which is less easy to find source material on. And we sort of had to smush them together in this picture book. So I'm trying to remember. I think that the house in the book which is the house that's still there, right? Is not the house that this tree was in front of. Things like that, where like they pulled the art source and like this is the kind of weeds that we get into where it's like some fan out there is like that tree was not in front of that house.
I'm going to put Stan on the spot later because Stan does these famous Bruce Springsteen tours of the Jersey Shore. So we'll put him on the
So
spot later.
yeah, he'll know and I'll feel bad, but I really did try. Um, and I went to the house and like my husband and I actually, Jason Isbell was doing a show at the Stone Pony like 2 years ago when I had signed on to do this. And I was like, oh, we'll call it a research trip. Maybe Bruce will show up at the Isbell show. But uh, what was I saying? Oh, but in general, so I also do a lot of picture books that are just my books that are my creative project. And when I very first started doing them, um, I didn't get a lot of input. They work really hard to separate the author and the artist. And I suspect two things. I suspect that it's because it would slow it down. If he and I were to go back and forth on every spread and I was
Mhm.
tweaking and he was responding and it became more creative and generative, it might actually result in a better book, but it would really slow down the process. So I think that
Mhm.
would be difficult. The so there's that piece. And the second piece is a lot of authors are divas. They just are. And so like if I was like, I want him to be wearing a purple shirt on page 4, like, and I had the ability to do that, it might really upset and bother the illustrator. I don't think I'm especially a diva, but it does happen. So when I very first started doing picture books, I had very little input, and it took me a while to kind of get to a place where I felt sturdy enough to speak up and say things.
Mhm.
But also, I've been in this business now for 20 years, and you would go to conferences and you meet with people through your publisher, and you do events with people when you go to their town, and they do events when they come to your town. And so as time has gone by, I've met a lot of wonderful, wonderful illustrators that I love. And so now I've gotten to a place where I can say, hey, like my friend Dan did this Endlessly Ever After book that I was just talking about, or I just signed on a book called Blankets Lewis about my kids' security blanket. And my friend Vera is doing that one. So So now I'm in a place where if I already can text with the person that's going to do the book, then we have more input on the projects. But I think with these little golden books, it's like a little machine. You know, they need to,
Yeah.
they've got a schedule and they need to keep it on track. And so I gave them a bunch of photographs, you know, like I directed them to a bunch of web pages with photographs and information and pictures of the band and things like that. And then they were working from that material and whatever else they went and found.
Got it. Got it. So we're going to get ready to move into audience Q&A, and there's one already in the chat that naturally dovetails with our discussion of the illustrations. So this question in the chat is, how did the decision get made to use Born in the USA, Bruce, as the cover image? That seems to be the natural choice, but were other covers considered? If so, what were they?
If they were, they were not, they did not ask me.
Okay.
So that is that answer. I
Okay.
think they did a really good job. I think that, I mean, I think that ultimately a cover is a marketing piece and
Yeah.
not really an art. Like, not that there's not an art in marketing, but I think they want whatever was the most iconic, recognizable thing, and this was
Yeah.
that. So.
That is pretty iconic there with that bandana. All right, so
My
let's.
husband teased me as I was coming on this call. He said, "Oh, you're wearing a flannel for your Springsteen thing. Why don't you put a bandana on?"
Was that a subconscious move? Wearing the flannel?
It was a I like blue.
Oh, okay, okay.
Blue is my safety color. Like it's what I wear when
Oh.
I'm nervous.
All right, so let's open the floor to audience Q&A then. Everyone, you can unmute yourself and ask a question if you would like, or you can type your question in the chat and I will ask it for you. Let's see if anybody's unmuted yet. Eric, I see you unmuted. Did you
Uh,
want to go ahead and ask a question?
Sure, sure, and thank you. I really enjoyed the conversation and learning how, Laurel, you came up with the project and had to, work it out. As parents, and this is what we always focus on, first of all, our kids are in their 20s now. But I remember so well when they were toddlers and, learning to read and, preschool, kindergarten, and, sitting on the couch or in bed, um, cuddling up and reading a book of their choice, and reading the Little Golden books that were so well known at the time, and coming away with a theme or a life lesson.
Mm-hmm.
And so, not knowing the content of the book, and I saw a couple of pages, what would you say the general gist of the book is about Bruce Springsteen and New Jersey and his life, and what would be a good life lesson that you can relay?
Well, I think, you know what, I'm going to read you. I noticed somebody else had a question about reading. I'm going to, so the book starts with like Bruce as a kid and sort of that's the like bio, like sort of it's a, I mean, this is pretty obvious, but basically it's like there are all of these different ways in which sort of he encountered music and music affected his life. And then the last page ends with, it's like he wins these awards and we got our Obama shot, right? Like all these things happen, and then it was really important to me that we land him back at home, right? That like that's where he is at the end. And I'll read the last page. It says, in fact, that's probably where he is right now, this very minute, living, dreaming, and working hard, just like always. He's playing his guitar and writing new songs, just like always, and singing, 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 just like always. Bruce still has rock and roll in his soul. Thank goodness some things never change. And so I feel like that was the thing, is like there was just this like essence to who Bruce is that sort of pulls, and that was like more in the original draft of the picture book. There was a sort of refrain to all of this, but that like at the end of the day, it's all of these other things happen in his life, and lots of things that aren't in this book happened in his life. And there is just this through line of music and what he was able to do with it and turn it into, and the ways in which it guided his life and all of ours, I guess. But that to me is sort of the theme.
So
And
can I add real quick?
it could have been many other books.
We all know Bruce Springsteen, his music, his life to a certain degree. But if someone were to pick this up not knowing about a lot of the things that he stands for, what you mentioned, Laurel, is the hard work. And we see concerts and the 3.5, 4 hour concerts and dedication to his fans. And the music and lost lyrics and lost albums and all the things that have come out of his his creations, his creative juices. Is that what you would say, that ultimately he's a hard worker? When you work hard at music, for example, you can have success?
I mean, I definitely think that is part of the book for sure. That sort of, this isn't about a rock star, it's about a musician, right?
Yep.
So
Awesome. Here is a question in the chat from a different Eric. Eric Lynn asks, with children's media, I often wonder about the best way to be age appropriate while still providing a meaningful story that's honest. Was this challenging for Bruce at all, Laurel?
no, I mean, there were definitely lots of layers. It's something we struggle with in general, right? That there's a character that I'm working on a book about right now, and I don't usually write nonfiction, but there's a character. I did a picture book years ago about Anna Pavlova, who's a ballerina, and her death was just this very, very beautiful, painful moment. And I couldn't write the book. I wasn't willing to publish the book if I couldn't include her death scene, but that's not usually something we have in a picture book biography. Sort of figuring out what do I need to add to it. And I said to my editor, like, how are we going to sell a book about a dead Russian ballerina from 100 years ago? And she said, we're going to make it so beautiful they have to buy it. Like it was about really pushing on the language and the visual art to make it this object that was where the death was transcendent like everything else in the story. But literally the book glitters. Like it's heavy with beauty. I think that, like, this is not a book about Bruce's mental health struggles or his father or, his marriages that didn't work or, we all have layers and layers to us. And I think there's a challenge when you go into somebody else's life to make a story, that you are choosing what to include and you are also choosing what to omit. That said, I am somebody who tends to be on the side of trusting children to censor themselves. I feel, particularly in this moment in time, but in general, have always felt that the beauty of a book is that it's a way of inoculating yourself, right? That if you pick up a book that is about a mental health struggle, like this is a book about divorce. This is a book about my parents' divorce that I wrote out of that experience. The number of emails that I've gotten from kids about this book, in all different ways, have been really powerful for me. But the point is that if you were to pick this book up and your parents were struggling and it was painful for you, the thing about a book is you have the power to set it down. Like that a book gives children agency and power. And while I maybe wouldn't give a 4-year-old who has less agency and power, or I wouldn't read aloud something damaging or upsetting, that I would be much more careful. There's a point at which when a kid is reading independently, I really do feel like more than any other media, it gives them control and a sense of their, like, empowerment. And so I tend to lean with my own kids. I certainly felt like sort of there are books I would choose to give you and books that I wouldn't choose to give you. But if you go to the library and you check out a book, I am not going to take it away from you. That is how we learn what we can handle. So, and that's just my position. But I spend a lot of time in schools and libraries, and I see a lot of different approaches to it. And I really don't know anybody who's ever told me a story about a kid really being hurt by something that was in like a picture book, right? Like there's certainly materials that could upset or hurt a kid, but the kinds of things that we find in picture books.
Thanks. That was a really thoughtful answer. Stan has a comment. Stan, I referenced earlier, in addition to just being a lovely human being, is something of a Bruce expert who provides these very highly in demand Bruce Springsteen tours of the Jersey Shore. So Stan, thanks for coming and the floor is yours.
Thank you. I just gave a tour to a family from Austria today.
Oh,
how
gosh.
cool!
Toured around today. So
I wish I had known you the last time I was in town. I was like, because I was doing things for this book. So I was like trying to, like, I found this Italian restaurant that I guess used to be the building that like he and Clarence met in or something.
Yeah, Porta, it's still there. So this Laurel you'll like, I believe. This is from, I found the message. I knew I wanted to find this when you were on. It's from a friend in Freehold, December 21st, 2023. a group in Freehold gets together with Bruce for lunch maybe twice a year. And they go to Federici's in Freehold, which is an Italian restaurant there. And my friend, afterward, he always messages me and said, oh yeah, here's the pictures of us with Bruce today. So he wrote me this, December 21st, 2023. One of the guys with us at Federici's had a copy of that Little Golden Bruce book that recently came out. Bruce said that he hadn't seen it yet and looked through it. He said he was amazed at how accurate it was.
Oh my God. Are you kidding me?
He pointed out his guitar in one of the cars and said, they're right on. That author did their homework.
Oh, you're like my favorite human being ever.
Yeah. So it's a friend Carl from Freehold. And then he said, and I have a picture, maybe I can send it to Melissa. He signed a copy of the book for me, for my grandkids. So, and I have a picture. And Melissa, I'll message this to you on a Facebook Messenger right now.
Yeah,
put it up.
Either that or email it to me, either way, and we'll get it to Laurel.
All right.
Oh
Because
my
I don't think I
gosh.
can post it here, but he did have Bruce sign the book. So that was from December of 2023. And
You just made my year. I can't even tell you.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Laurel, when I get the recording posted, you have to make your whole family listen to that.
It'll be like a soundbite on my phone that like plays when somebody calls me. Are you kidding me?
Oh, thank you so much, Stan, for sharing that.
So, yeah, I thought you'd like that. Yep. And I was just thrilled I could actually find something I was looking for.
You're amazing. So you're a curator also.
Yes. I'll put this quote in the chat so you can see it. So,
Awesome.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
When did the book come out?
I lose track of these things. Let me see.
It
It says 2023. It was fall, so it must have just been out like a month or two.
Because that's what the guy said, my friend said. So, yep, and here's the quote. I'm putting it in the chat. So I think I can do it.
Oh, that's
Thank you
awesome.
so much, Stan.
Yep. There it is. All right. Now, Melissa, I'll message you this.
Awesome. And then I'll make sure Laurel sees it. Awesome. Well, listen, I don't know. It's hard to follow up Stan's great participation there, but do we have any other questions from the audience? I'm looking to see if anybody's unmuted. You can unmute yourself or you can type the question in the chat. This is a question from Linda about Bruce playing Butterball.
Gutterball.
Gutterball.
I think it probably like corrected.
Gotcha. That's what
I think I took that from. I think I got that from the autobiography.
Gotcha.
I think that was that's the kind of detail that I was very specifically looking for kid stuff, like sort of what do I have? And again, some of the stuff that he includes from his childhood doesn't probably belong in a Little Golden Book, right? Like he had a hard childhood. So that's the balance of like I want to give an authentic Bruce Springsteen childhood memory, but probably we want it to be on the fun side. Not the punishment side or the poverty side, and so Gutterball felt like that's like a kid thing. And I could see kids going out and being like, what's that? Let's see if we can figure out how to do that,
That's a good catch on the autocorrect. I'm going, Butterball. Wait, I don't remember reading that in the book.
I looked it up. I was trying to figure out what it means, so that I could give art notes of like what exactly you do. I think it's just like you bounce it into the corner, like where the street hits the curb. And then it like comes up we used to play like a wall ball game against the school.
Yeah. Yeah, Bruce was something of an athlete in his younger days, right? We have his Little League programs in the archives. And then, of course, the band had their softball team that they played when they were out traveling the country on tour, the E Street Kings. We've got all kinds of fun E Street King stuff, but looking for those things that kids will relate to, right, Laurel? Awesome. All right. Well, it looks like we are out of questions. Last call. Anybody?
May I?
Yes, please, Eric.
So I just want to follow up on something you said about going home or coming home and how New Jersey really is Bruce's home, where he grew up, he came back to, but it's a central thing to anybody that knows anything about Bruce Springsteen. So what was something that you could say that, what was the reason why, or if you included New Jersey in that, in the book, that was important to the story?
Yeah, no, definitely. Some of this, so like if you go back a few pages, it says Bruce had everything he could want. He was rich and famous. He had family and friends. The only thing missing was home.
Mm.
So Bruce decided it was time. And then there's this picture. The center of the world is New Jersey, apparently. Says, to go back to the place that had inspired his songs and his life, New Jersey. Bruce and his family moved to a farm just down the road from Freehold, not far from the ocean. And like, that's the kind of thing that's tricky. It's like, I want to evoke for kids what New Jersey is. Well, there are lots of different New Jerseys, right? That like, not far from the ocean is squishy enough language that I can get away with putting all those things together in one sentence kind of thing. But honestly, if I'm being really blunt, probably some of this is projection. When you make a story about somebody else's life, even though the details are their life, you're like, what does home mean to Bruce? Well, I don't know, really, no matter how well he describes it, no matter how many records I listen to, but I know what home means to me. And so on some level, I'm laying that on top of his story. And I am somebody from Baltimore who Jersey is very familiar to me. Like, the world that I am from is not that different than that world. And I live in a very different place now. And I have been trying to get home for decades. Like, I left for college thinking I would go home. And then I got a scholarship to grad school. And so I kept thinking I'd go home. And then my husband got a job in Georgia. And then I kept thinking I'd go home. And so I'm somebody who sort of didn't get that choice yet and is sort of still hoping for it. So on some level, I really do think that like the importance of that in the book was both that it's important for Bruce's story and also that it's important for my story, and that that's like emotionally important for me. So I may have laid it on a little thick there. I don't know.
That's a great point. Thank you.
Just a comment from Jim in the chat. The scenes depicted in the book are just incredible. Talking about Bruce and Clarence. Just a lot of praise for you here, Laurel. I think you may have worried about the fans and what they might think, but we love it. We support you, and heck, it looks like Bruce even supports you. So bravo.
Thank you guys so much. This has been so fun. I really, really appreciate the invitation. And I'm totally, the next time I get up that way, I'm going to take you up on it and see if I can come and visit.
You're going to do a tour. You're going to come get a behind the scenes look at the archive. We're going to do it all. So thank you so much, Laurel. I want to let you have the last word. Anything else you'd like to say before we break?
No, just thanks to all of you. And I just love that there's this community doing this. Because history is important and archives are important and community is important and Bruce is important. It's just very reassuring that you're out there doing that.
This has been great. Thank you so much. So thanks again to Laurel. Thanks to everybody for joining us. Again, please keep in touch with us on social media, on our website, springsteenarchives.org. We have nearly a week's worth of events lined up to celebrate and interrogate the 50th anniversary of Born to Run, August into September. So let's all keep in touch, everybody. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.